I'm here with TLO, obviously. We're at HomeStory Cup. How's it going so far?
Pretty good. I'm very happy with my first day. I won my group against Mana and ClouD. So went through as first, which should give me a little bit of an advantage on Friday. And having a good time now.
So the first matches were against ClouD, and then obviously people hyped this up because ClouD said some interesting things online. There's been some back and forth. Like, was it a grudge match for you at all? Did you not care about it? What was the situation?
Well, obviously it was nice to win just because of that, but when I'm going into that match, I try not to care at all, because I think it's important to treat every opponent in a neutral way and just try to stay focused. I was more happy than I would have been, especially because it was a 2-0 and not a 2-1, than beating anybody else, I guess, but that's something that happened post-game.
What did you actually think of ClouD's comments? Like, what was the one that he said that kind of annoyed you, basically? I think he kind of suggested you weren't doing very well or you weren't very good or something.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been like a couple of textual encounters on Twitter between us. I just don't like his attitude when it comes to a few things, and we seem to have clashing personalities, to put it like that.
Obviously, like, you're from Germany. He's been in and around the German scene like for almost all of StarCraft 2 now. What is ClouD actually like as a player? Like, is he good? Like, what do you has his personality always been a bit quirky like this?
Well, he's a mid-tier programmer who hasn't done like anything huge. He's not bad. He's having decent results from time to time, but overall he's not very outstanding now.
So after that you played Mana. Now on paper it should look like, oh, well, Mana's done all this stuff in big tournaments, like he should win this match, but actually you beat him at the Good Invitational not so long ago. So like, what was your expectation going into that match?
Well, Mana does have much better tournament results, but I know just when it comes to pure skill, and when I'm having a good day and he's having an equally good day, I know that we are both pretty even opponents, and I think he's still struggling a little bit with CVP. So just from my personal perspective, I think I would have I went into the match as a slight favorite, but pretty even map.
In terms of when you came into the group, like, were you sure that it was going to be you who'd come top? Did you just think, like, I'll get out of the group? Like, do you think Mana was the favorite? What were your, like, overall, how did you weigh it up?
Well, I guess the only thing I just thought was Mana and me are going to make the head of the group. I saw two clear favorites like that. Okay,
so far they've only played, I think they're just finishing like the fourth group now or something. Based on what you know so far, who would you predict should be like the standout favorites for the tournament?
Well, there's a bunch of people who haven't played it, obviously, but I think Snoot is going to do very well this tournament. We have really strong Koreans here, so I'm just going to name them. MC, obviously, is always dangerous, especially at HomeStory Cup, and MKP and Symbol, obviously, very strong, and hopefully Red and I will do well too.
In your last few tournaments, you have like gotten out of group stages, you've gotten like a little bit further into the bracket. What's like a realistic placing here for you? What would be like an acceptable placing? Obviously not just saying like I want to win the tournament, you know.
Well, I think the next obvious step for me is making it to the semis of a pretty big tournament, so I'm definitely aiming for that. That's probably the first stage I'd be satisfied with my performance, but yeah, winning is the only thing that really matters.
Okay. As like a player, you seem to have a cycle that you go through where you have like a 3-month span where you say, guys, I'm practicing so hard, like, and then there's a time where you go, I have to take a month off now, or like, oh, my RSI is like flying up again. Like, is this something that you've noticed yourself? Like, it just seems to keep going through this cycle? Is there something that's changed now that's fixed it? Like, where are you at in terms of like your overall progression as a player, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I do notice, or did notice, that kind of pattern, obviously, and it was probably partly mental and still partly because my wrists were still pretty damaged back then, and ever since I haven't had really any physical problems anymore. I think the past half year I've had a pretty decent run without any longer breaks. I think the longest time I haven't practiced in half a year now has been 3 days maybe, which was right after the tournament, just to rest up a little bit. But so far it's going much better than the past year. And I think if I just continue on that upwards trend, I'm going to start placing really high in tournaments next year, soon to come.
Since, HeyPro's retired, Jinro's retired, the top Koreans in Liquid do really, really well and they have such high placings. It seems like for you guys who are from like the older generations, like you and Rhett now, it kind of like the pressure's on you guys to actually do something as well. Like, do you feel this way? Does that add anything in terms of your career, or does it not affect how your mindset is?
Well, it definitely impacts me because now more than ever, it's even more important for me to show my team and show the community that I'm capable, even though I find this distinction of only Koreans of Liquid are doing well and demeaning that a little bit. I don't really like that. The whole concept of foreigner of Koreans makes me a little bit uncomfortable in some ways. So in that sense, I don't care so much when people say only all Koreans are doing well. But for me personally, it's just important to show myself that I'm worthy to be Team Liquid. I don't care about the community so much, but yeah, I want to give my best more than ever, I guess.
Okay, this might sound like a bit of an abstract question, okay, but like you were saying there, just considering all the players in Team Liquid as a whole, one thing I've noticed is more than any other team I can think of, you seem to have like the most, I'd say like emotionally fragile players. So even like Hero and Tasia, one day they can be like the best in the world, the next day they might just lose to some person they shouldn't in like the round of 8 or something. It seems to go right down the team though. Rhett, everyone like has this same quality. What makes Team Liquid as a team like this, do you think?
I think I think Victor just picks a certain kind of personality that is probably appealing to him, I guess. And it's funny because if you look at that entire team and you know us a little bit more personally, we don't have anything in common but a few points, but it's a very diverse group of people. We just all seem to have that common trend of being very emotional about what we're doing, and I think that's because Victor likes people who are passionate about what they're doing, and that's maybe one of the reasons he picked us. But it can make you vulnerable to not being happy with yourself when you're not doing so well. So that might explain that up and down swing a little bit, because when you're doing well, if you're really passionate about it, it's gonna make you happy, it's gonna accelerate you, it makes you want to go even further. But then when you have a downswing, it hits you even harder.
Just in terms of you as a player, like, have you always been that type of guy, just like personality-wise, or was it something you noticed like when you just got into pro gaming?
I think my personality just became a little bit more extreme in pro gaming like that. I think I've always been, I don't want to use the term bipolar, but essentially somebody with a lot of down and up swings like that. Always following that sinus curve, but. With esports, I think I made more extreme experiences and a lot of priorities shifted in my life, and it just is something that's more important than anything in my life before, because in school maybe I had a similar experience, but then I didn't care so much about it, so the impacts were less extreme. So I'm kind of trying to find my zen a little bit. I think lots of things have improved this year for me mentally. Because I realized how extreme those swings were, and that's something I'm still working on.
Do you have like a moment in your StarCraft 2 career that you can think of that, like when you're in like the difficult times, or when you're like trying to battle back from injury or something, is like the moment you think like I want to get back to this position again, or like how I felt in this scenario? Is there anything that comes to mind like that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of specific scenarios I can think of that I try to remind myself of when I have a bad period. I try to compare to something I've done in the past and try to learn from that past experience, because sometimes you don't realize until it happens again. But if you're really aware of when it happened and how it happened, it's not that hard to deal with it. Okay, do you have a final message for anyone who watched this? Sure. Today we actually got a new sponsor, so first of all, Twitch and Razer and the little app factory have been really great support for us, but now we also welcome Barracuda Networks, so you should check that out. They are looking for highly skilled software engineers, so go on Team Liquid and maybe you'll see some of their stuff there. Danke. Bitteschön.